Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Insiders with Liz and Amber, and we are so happy to be coming to you live today. Thanks to Giant FM and Giant TV, I should say. Had a little moment there. Amber, how are you doing, honey? How was your weekend?
It was amazing. It was a beautiful, cool, crisp weekend. I always love the weather. The weather really influences my feelings and emotions. And so the sun was amazing. And
Yeah.
I got a lot of quality time with my husband this weekend, which was
good.
much needed.
Oh my God, was it ever much needed?
Yes.
Aww.
How about you? How was your weekend?
Ours was really awesome. Well, as you know, with that the new line opened up where we're allowed to have 10 people. You know, we're allowed to be around 10 people. Yeah. And we got a call for support and help from friends of ours who live in Sarnia that needed some help doing some cement work. So I always wanted to know how to do that. And being the do-it-yourselfer kind of gal that I am, I thought I need to go and find out how this is done. Plus, to be honest with you, I wanted to see my girlfriend. So we went and spent the night and had an incredibly loving, connecting weekend. Well, also for my husband, backbreaking. I didn't actually do any of the labor. My husband did. But will I ever try to do cement myself? No. I already discovered it's not a job I will ever be able to do by myself.
It's hard.
It's really hard. And it's almost like an art. It's definitely an art. It's not almost like, it is an art. And I think you have to have years of experience to do something like that. But yeah, it was fascinating, and it was just great to be connecting. And I got my first hug this weekend.
Aww.
I know. And you know, it's so weird because like we were told we're allowed to hug again. And I've been very, like you, we've been very diligent about our circle. Like you've stayed connected only to your family, me too.
Yeah.
But when you reconnect with a friend that you haven't seen in a long time and you get that hug for the first time, it actually brought tears to my eyes and to hers. It was fascinating. And then my other friend and I connected, and I got a hug from her too. So I'm probably a diseased human right now, but I'm just kidding.
Oh, you are not. Just
kidding. No, I know both of these gals are just as as hardcore as me when it comes to this COVID thing. Like we're very careful, and it was just. It was a beautiful weekend. So.
Oh, that's amazing. And yeah, if you're being safe and you've been keeping up with the rules, and now you're keeping your circle small, and you're following the best recommendations. It's not even rules, it's recommendations as to what we can do to help, combat the pandemic. And hopefully it'll be gone sooner than later. So as long as we keep doing what we're doing, right?
That's right. And we can only just, it's like you were saying before we came on live, everybody, Amber and I were chatting about, about our weekend, and and you had mentioned that you got to visit your elderly grandma, and you still don't have any connection with her, and you're at a very deep distance from her. But what was the word she said to you, Amber? I thought we should share that.
Yeah. So she's 94, and until this time she'd still been going out every day, and she gets dressed up, and that's she's always just been very social, and that's what she does, because that's she's widowed and 15 years now, so she's definitely using that kind of socializing and seeing us. Like we're very, very close family, so we would see them all the time, her all the time. So when I finally did see her, she kept wanting to come closer. You could see she just wanted to come and just embrace. And I kept saying, Nana, you have to stay back. Like we have to stay back, right? And of course they say 6 feet, but I'm like stay 10 feet back.
I know, you're so afraid.
Yeah. And, just in case, someone coughs and whatever, right? So just stay 10 feet back. And so she says, my time is slipping away. I am 95 in August. She says, I just want to hug. I just want to do things. I want to line dance. I want to sing. I want to, come to your house for a visit. And I said, I want all of those same things. So let's make sure that we get through the next few weeks of making sure that we're doing it and playing it safe so that we can have years of doing that.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's got to be so traumatizing for the elderly. I mean, I have always, like, throughout this entire pandemic, I have really felt strongly and overwhelmed for single moms, and not really thinking about, well, I live next door. They're not, I don't consider them elderly, but they're in their late 70s. And
Yeah.
it's so ridiculous. I don't consider them elderly. Like, she's my friend.
Right.
But I have been very, like, at the beginning I was like, let me get groceries. My kids are doing it. And, and all these different things, like you're wanting to be so protective of them and their life. And they're so sacred to us. Everybody is so sacred to us in our circle. So, as much as I stepped out of my comfort zone this weekend, I can tell you, I did it because I knew the people that I was doing it with were as stringent as me in following the rules, and I wanted to. I wanted to, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, you know
so
what?
I look forward to you getting that first hug with your grandma.
I know. I text my dad, who doesn't really text back very well. He's just not used to it, right? So my mom, she does it all the time now. But my dad, I texted him and I said, I miss you. I just want a hug. And he said, I can't do that for you right now. And then he started getting like, oh my goodness. And I said, you know what? It's okay. I'm sending you, a big hug in my mind. And so when I went to go see my grandmother the other day, my dad came out too, and because they all live together. And so we had a nice little visit. But yeah, it'll be nice, I know, for all of our listeners out there to be able to embrace the people that they haven't been able to, or maybe you have been already. I mean, we have a big family living in our home. Like, I have lots of children. And so, I get to hug people daily and know that part, at least, where, the elderly may not have had any physical connection. And that connection, that hug, lowers your blood pressure, and it elevates your mood, and it helps you feel connected, because when you're not physically connecting, you also don't know if you're losing the emotional connection too,
That's right. So great big virtual hugs to everybody out there who hasn't had the experience of a hug since this began. Soon, I feel like it's going to be soon that we're going to be, raising the veil on all of this. So that's good news. Now, we are going to have an interesting conversation today, Amber. You want to share with the folks what that's going to be about?
So recently I was questioned by a client, and this had been, I think, the third time I was asked within the last year about my experience with the term or experience dark night of the soul. And so when we talked last week, Liz and I, about spiritual awakening, it kind of got me into, that relevance of dark night of the soul and how it connects, or does it connect, and how, what is the awareness or consciousness around that. So today, Liz, we're going to chat about your experience, my experience, what is dark night of the soul, and if any of you out there have heard the term. So based on research, back in the 16th century, a Roman Catholic mystic, I cannot remember what the name was, but they had, coined the term dark night of the soul. And so it has been acknowledged to be somewhat of a religious term or experience. However, as time has evolved and now we're in this century, we can talk about it in the more soul-based spiritual aspect connected to our human experience and our soul's experience for our higher self. So Liz, have you ever heard of that, or have you I know you've heard of it, but have you experienced that?
I have. I've experienced it on a couple of occasions. I would say the first real dark night of my soul, like the very first time that ever happened for me was when my brother passed away when I was 10 years old. And everything that I knew to be normal was flipped upside down. And all my feelings and emotions were flipped upside down. I was really put on notice and awareness of everything. Everything was heightened and everything was numbed. It was a very strange, and so anybody who's lost somebody would understand that that feeling. But that happening at such a young age for me, I don't think I knew at the time. In fact, I didn't know at the time what was going down for me. But that was actually the catalyst. And this is where hindsight is incredible, because we can look back and go, wow, had that not happened, I wouldn't have this awareness, that awareness, and I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have had the direction that I wanted to go or that I went in. All of those things that came out of that event were incredible. But there was this dormant phase, I would say, that lasted probably for me, really strongly dominantly for about a year and a half. And then it kind of phased away from that strong, heavy darkness over a span of, I want to say, probably another 15 years. And it was that boom, boom, boom. I was constantly being raised. My awareness was being raised. So as much as it was a deep, darkened awareness, where you become completely blindsided by life, it was actually probably one of the most exceptional moments of my life as well, if I could say that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I definitely feel like, when we talk about Dark Night of the Soul, and you talk about it in the respect of, for Roman Catholics, it could essentially be like a spiritual crisis or a crisis of faith, a crisis of identity. We might have called it a midlife crisis. We might call it depression, or,
Yes.
Disconnected or disassociating or things like that. So when you are exactly what you said, Liz, like when you're blindsided by the events of your life, or let's say, for instance, collectively, the world right now with the pandemic, and your life is turned upside down to the extent that you now have no understanding of what your life is. Everything you thought you might have already known or figured out has now been turned to be a question. Everything is meaningless but meaningful. So you all of a sudden find meaning in the little things that you took for granted before. And the thing for me is that you become, in my experience with the Dark Night of the Soul, it was more of how interconnected everything truly is. So for instance, actually, Liz and I were talking about this, and I'm just going to brief it down. But I've been aware that I've been placed into someone's life to be the person that is at that moment helping somebody. And then later, it could be months or years or weeks or hours later, in a completely different context, I could be the one needing the help or assistance. And now that person is there being the one that's helping me do so. So for instance, a client of mine who came to me for clarity, months later, when I'm maybe at the hospital, that may be the healthcare practitioner, or that might be the first responder or something that's coming to be that person in my space at that moment. And that's how you kind of understand it, because now everything is interconnected. Now you have some sort of understanding that that term, it's a small world, is so in fact highly accurate, because everything about who you're coming in contact with, whether it's over the phone halfway across the world or your neighbors across the street, they have been placed there strategically to help you with whatever it is that you need. And sometimes you don't understand what that is at the time. And sometimes
And I think
all
that
time.
the cool thing is too, Amber, that we should say, because you're right on point with that, is it may not be to help you in a way that you wanted to be helped.
Yeah.
Right.
And you
It
may not
might come
understand.
as a way of uncomfortable or, you know, I did not ask for that kind of direction. Like it could come at you that way. And then you'll feel sort of despondent about that person. But that always brings, even I found, even more profound lessons when you have the aha, like, oh God, that person was being a pain in my ass so that I would see this.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. You know, and, you know, in 2019, I think it was 2019, the reason why everybody felt like that was such a challenging year, which many of you might not remember now, 2019.
Yeah, that was so long ago. 2019.
Yeah, 2019, what? That was easy.
Yeah.
But in 2019, what had happened was the universal energies aligned. So what you experienced, if you were old enough, what you experienced 19 years ago was coming back into your life in that moment. So for instance, you know, at that point, 19 years earlier, I was having my son, Cameron. I was pregnant with him. Well, 19 years fast forward, my son, Cameron, was now expecting his first child. So it didn't happen to me in first form, but now what's happened is the universe said, Amber, remember everything that you thought you were struggling with or what you understood or what you went through back 19 years ago. Now we want you to see it in third person form, meaning now, where did you go wrong? How can you reflect? Do you owe someone an apology? Do you owe yourself an apology? Do you have that awareness? So it was like being able to kind of rewind your life and look at it from a different perspective. So you were not hard on yourself. You actually learned from that. So if you were aware, I don't know, Liz, did you have that awareness?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm recounting many memories in my mind as you're talking about that are just like, oh, and that happened and that was similar to me, and that happened and that was similar to me. That those are the most profound ones. And I think it's so exciting that you brought that up, because most people don't even recognize that that's happening for that reason. They think it's happening to them and not for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
Incredible.
Why is it repeating? Why do I always have to go through this? How come this keeps happening to me? We're cursed. This sucks. You know, whatever it is that we're seeing at a very superficial level. Usually what I suggest to people is, when you're asking yourself, why is this happening to me? First, you know, let's think it's happening for you. Like you said, Liz, it's happening for us. But when you ask yourself, why does this keep happening to me? Maybe pause at that moment, because that's those life lessons in that second that you maybe need to ask a different question. Like, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to contribute to this? How is it making me feel? Not what does my mind tell me to process, but how do I feel about that? And then venture down that road, because you're right, Liz, like not a lot of people are aware that that's why things keep coming, or why there's the coincidences or the synchronicities or things like that, right?
Exactly. And I should add to that, it's not just other people. I myself too have been in that moment where, how did I not see that before? Where I fell into the victim mode of, why is this happening to me? Why does my life suck so bad? Why? Instead of going, what am I not seeing here?
Right.
I found when I started to ask that, what am I not seeing here question, right? Instead of the, why is this happening to me? The awareness floods in, and your eyes open into this new perspective of awareness. And it's just, wow, okay. I don't got to take that personally. I don't got to feel overwhelmed by this. I just got to pay attention. This is a lesson for me. Okay, I can handle lessons. We all like to be taught a lesson. Even if we're resistant to it, we like the awareness of it after the fact. There is not a person on the planet that doesn't like having the awareness of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, right?
The epiphany, the aha, that like feeling of release. It's like, oh, I understand. understand, you know. And a lot of times when I'm working with a client and I am, you know, providing that insight or the clarity on a situation that they've come and asked about, and their response is, I get that, but I don't understand why. But I'm like, okay, well then let's backwards a bit, because you don't get it then. Because if it's, and which is fine, because sometimes I have to be knocked over the head too. And my spirit guides are like, oh my God, Amber, like, please listen, you know, like there's those moments.
I know. I often think of my spirit guides as, you know, chain smoking, hair and curlers with, you know, like just going, what, Liz, what part of this aren't you getting?
No, but that's the thing, is that we're trying to problem solve, and the problem solving comes from a place of the ego. So when your ego is an active force, your soul is sitting back whispering and hoping your ego hears the whispers, where your ego yells out and sets things on fire so that you can see it. So this is normal. If you're out there and you're listening and you're having trouble hearing the signs of your soul or the whispers of your higher self, this is normal to have trouble hearing it. What we're saying today is, understand it is completely possible to have a new perception or to experience dark night of the soul in order to then hear it, so that when you are replayed it later in someone else's experience, it's not happening to you or your family or friends. It's happening for you, so you can see, okay, what can I evaluate? It's like if you were an employee, because I'm an HR person, if you're an employee and it's your 6-month review, and now your employer has said, you know, you're late quite a bit, like, how can we fix this? And you're like, I'm never late. I can't believe they said that. I do so much for this place. And that you go to an immediate like protection zone, instead of saying, you know what, yeah, I am late, I better do better at that. Or can I start 15 minutes later because I have to drop my kids off at school, and it's just stressful for you, it's stressful for me, let's figure this out. So essentially the dark night of the soul is when you're having your soul review in your conscious form, not when you've passed and you're doing it in soul form. And you're being able to see and evaluate based on what you feel you did to somebody else's experience. So now you're like, ooh, get the popcorn, sit back, put your feet up and watch, because now you can see and learn and experience. And Dark Night of the Soul sounds so scary, right, Liz? Like, it sounds scary.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and when you're in it, you feel it. Like it's not all rainbows and, you know, and popcorn, but
I like popcorn.
I do too, and I love rainbows. But it's you know, it's like anything in life. And I try to get this message across to anybody who's suffering or is in victim energy, that comes in my path. And you have to experience the pain in order to gain or release it. If you try to bypass it or dodge it, you're going to be successful at that temporarily. Mm-hmm. If you try to quash it by taking, you know, a medication or alcohol or anything like that, you're going to be successful temporarily. Mm-hmm. But it always comes back. And until you actually get in there, get your hands dirty and experience the rawness of it, you are not going to be able to heal from it. And that sounds scary as hell. But let me tell you what's more scarier than doing that. Hanging out in that area for years and years and years, and causing more damage as a result of that, not only to yourself, but to others. So accepting the dark night of the soul. I think that was when I finally accepted. Now I said that first one was 15, it spanned over 15 years. Was it an intense, you know, overwhelming? No, it was about 1.5 years that I was really intensely overwhelmed by it, really trying to understand death. I delved into the whole, what does this mean? What is a soul? I mean, I delved into everything. Because I needed to understand. At 10 years old, it made no sense to me. One minute my brother's standing next to me, the next minute he's in a coffin. It made no sense to me whatsoever. So, you know, even adults struggle with that, right? So I gained so much wonderful insight because of the conversations I had with myself. Obviously, it was with my guides, but I didn't realize it at the time. But fast forward to the 15 years, so it was a process. It was an ongoing process, and I can remember the release that I had when I finally came to that awareness that, okay, I'm okay. Everything's okay. Like life is okay. Everything's okay. I can move beyond this. And then I started on my next spiritual journey, right? Which was the next phase. And so like we've alluded to this a number of times, Amber and I, in our discussions about how you'll never be fully in awareness. It is a constant repetitive cycle. So just as you come out of one, you get to go on another journey. But you know, you did allude to this early in this show, Amber, and that was that the world is kind of under the dark night of the soul right now. Everything is flipped upside down. Right is wrong, wrong is right, and you know, and you know, nothing makes any sense. Things that we thought were okay aren't okay. Things that we ignored were actually really horrific things for other people, and we're just really like trying to come to terms with our role in our own destiny and in our own life and the world's life and the perspective of the world. And to that, I would say, it's kind of cool that we're all on the journey together. That's the cool thing. We're not alone. Usually the dark night of the soul is a very lonely, singular kind of journey. This one's different, and we can all feel it. Wouldn't you agree, Amber?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I am worried for when we go back to the normal aspect of going shopping and the hustle and bustle, and people are, you know, hurrying and scurrying around. And I noticed that this morning. I had to take my husband something for lunch. He forgot his lunch, and there was no way I was letting him go, you know, 10 hours in the heat without a lunch. So I got in the car and I went and I dropped it off for him. And in the, you know, 15-minute car ride out there, you know, I was cut off 4 times, and people were, you know, riding up like right in my bumper. And I'm not a slow driver, but I'm not also going to be a speed driver. Like I'm not, you know, I'm just going with the flow of traffic. You know, and people yelling at somebody at the gas station because the pump wasn't working. And all of a sudden I started to have this awareness that people are no longer trying to have that connectedness where we're all in this together, where we see that term all over the place, we're in this together, where now it's almost like, okay, I have to get to work. I have to pay the bills. I have to go do these errands. And now that is building back up on people. So my hope is that everybody kind of remembers this collective universal dark night of the soul experience and keep that we are, no matter what, if we're under attack by a virus or if we are just living our life independently, we're all still interconnected.
Absolutely.
Because what are we looking for? We're looking for understanding, we're looking for connection, we're looking for acceptance. That's
love.
what the human is looking for.
Love.
Right?
Right. 100%.
So if we stop resisting that, if we stop feeling like we have to be one against the world, and we realize that we can, you know, be kind to the stranger. I'm watching people, you know, I always smile at somebody and say hi when they pass by. And for the most part, I would say 9 out of 10 times people respond with another smile or a nod of the head or whatever. But there are some times where people are just like, oh my God, they're looking at me. I don't understand. And they just like, they look around or they just completely ignore it. You know, you hold the door open for someone holds the door open for me and I say, thank you. And there's no response, nothing, like not a, you're welcome or yep, or
I know.
like nothing.
I know.
So I'm hoping that people still remain in the forward motion of staying connected, because
well, you know what I would say to that, Amber, and I gotta jump in on you there. as much as you're 100% right, it's the world is striving to get back into its own little bubble, like everybody's individual bubble. But just because they are doesn't mean you or I or anybody watching this show has to curtail to that old energy.
Oh, never.
Right?
I would never. I never
Right.
have.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're so right. And that's the thing, is that I still continue. I
Exactly.
still continue to do what I want my perception of reality to be, because it doesn't have to be, this morning when everybody the energy could very easily have sucked me into, oh my God, I can't wait to get home. This has been a stressful day.
Yeah.
It was, I immediately caught myself and I went, oh, I have a piece of calm over me, because I do not want that as my experience or perception of reality at that moment. And you do have control over that.
That's all you have control over.
Yes.
Is your own perception of your reality.
Yes.
That's the only thing. We have no control over any other soul's actions or inactions in some cases. The only control we have is over how we perceive and react.
Right.
That's it. That's all. That's, the free will clause. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You get to choose how you feel today. Mm-hmm. And so, with everything that's happening in the world, Black Lives Matter, this latest incident that happened in Atlanta, which is devastating. And there's multiple sides of the coin, right? Like, so people are going to be saying this about it and that about it. And, and then statues being torn down and people are saying, but this guy was a good person. And, just because he did this or whatever. The bottom line is you're all right. Everybody's right. Does it make it right though?
Yeah. To
have oppressive icons against any other soul that is still existing? No, it's not. It would be like having you in a cage. That's not right. Mm-hmm. So if we just keep pushing forward with our love and acceptance and our agenda of being in control of our own feelings and wants and desires, we're going to make changes by leading by example.
Right. So here's 3 quick ways that you can easily understand or control or have active participation in experiencing your perception. So I'll go first, Liz. I'll list one. Yeah. You have to have the intention. You have to have the intention that this is the way you want your reality to be experienced.
100%. Because without that, you're flying solo and you're lost.
Right. Yeah.
The other thing is, understand in the moment of any type of reaction that you get to choose the level that you're participating in. So anger, sadness, happiness, joy, laughter, you're choosing how to give that out. Mm-hmm. So if you're angry, you can't blame it on somebody else. Not true. It's not reality. Reality is you're choosing to find fault in what that person said or did to you. And even if 1 million people agree with you and you're being told you're right for that energy, you still get a choice on how you're going to react. And that is where your power is. Don't give that shit up. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
And the third tip is, when you are triggered, when you are in that crossroad, when you are faced with something that is just, outrageous or absolutely validating to your story, reflect on where that came from. Where did that belief system come from? If you are outraged by something someone has said to you, are you outraged because you have experienced this in the past and or you feel you are being stifled or you are being oppressed? What is it exactly that has triggered a response to you in that moment? Because in order to continue, and especially if you're experiencing dark night of the soul, everything you thought to be true is now no longer having any meaning to you. So therefore, you have to actually actively go through that process to figure out where your soul and where your ego self aligns. And do they align anymore? And do you need them to align anymore? Because something that you believed in highly when you were 5 may not be your belief system today. And that trigger is your soul fighting with the ego to align to your new awareness of self.
Love it.
So that's it. 3, we elaborated, but 3 quick tips to figure out how to connect and align.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just quickly go through them. Like I'm watching with the corner of my eye. This thing's been flying off here. So I'll just see if anybody's asked. I won't read out all of them, but I will see if anyone's got any questions. Crystal's saying she's pretty sure she went through that in 2015. Renee's saying she definitely went through that with last year with the loss of her son. Absolutely. And you're probably still going through it. Yeah. My daughter's going through this now at her work. Thanks for sharing, trying to help her to understand, but so difficult when she seems not appreciated. Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of her awareness. You know, that's actually a really good one that she brought up there, because whenever you think you're not being appreciated, that's saying that you don't have faith in yourself or your own abilities. What about you is not appreciating yourself? Or what about you is insecure about what you're delivering to others? It is part of the, you know, needing the ego stroked, which is a big part of, you know, growing up, right? Going from adolescence into, and I mean, I struggled with this up into my 40s, so I know it well. We often feel we need to be told that we're doing something good or that we need that appreciation. The reality is, if you're doing what you want to do and you're doing the job that you've been asked to do, validation on that is not always necessary. It's lovely. Do not get me wrong. Everybody loves validation. But if you're not feeling it, maybe it's time for her to move beyond her comfort zone in there and try something new, or change positions or change companies. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes that's why that appreciation doesn't come into play as well. But you don't necessarily need appreciation to know that you're doing a good job. That comes from self. You give that source. The source gives that to you. You know what you're doing and how you're doing it. As long as you're not hearing you're terrible, you're crap, constantly. And in that case, that's a whole other storyline that we need to address, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Did you want to add anything to that, Amber?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the gratitude part of that message, because when we are working to help somebody, so when somebody has a problem, so say they are going through the dark night of the soul, and as the loved one, I'm helping them because maybe I've experienced it, now I want to help. There's 2 things, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you have to be, if you're going through dark night of the soul, you have to be an active participant in the experience. So if we are resisting the dark night of the soul, because resistance comes from this, it's super simple. Resistance is caused when the outcome is not what my desire was. So I didn't want to be in a car crash, and I was. And so now I'm pissed and mad and angry, and everybody's not helping me, and my world's falling apart, and I'm never going to heal, as an example. Versus, okay, I was in a car accident, and now I get time off. I have to take care of my leg. I have to rebuild my strength. I have to, you know, buy a new car, whatever. So resistance is when your ego self is saying, I want a different outcome than what I'm being given. So you're not actually allowing the outcome that's supposed to show up arrive or accept it. So when you are trying to help somebody who is resisting or not showing gratitude, it is because their outcome or their desire is not being met the way they want it to. And you can't change that either, because they have to be acceptant, or they have to be participating in the fact that they have to switch or change their alignment to line up with what is, not what I wanted or what I expected. So that gratitude will come when that happens. And then as for, you know, appreciation and things like that, I think you're planting a seed. So even if they can't see it today, or in a week from now, you've planted that seed. So it's germinating. It'll flourish when it's ready, and then you'll get that awareness of gratitude.
100%. 100%. Okay. And saying she definitely went through this last year. Um, oh, hang on. I go through this with my 7-year-old son and trying to help him understand his loss, and it's hard because I don't fully understand myself. Also, explaining it to a child, you have to take a different, hang on, a different approach. 100%. That's Renee explaining that.
Yeah.
Yeah, part of your dark night of the soul, Renee, is that not only do you have to face this for you, but also for those who depend on you. So it's a 2-4 lesson.
But you can also learn so much from your 7-year-old. I mean,
Huge.
in this case, I would challenge you to, you know, be aware of how your 7-year-old is actually processing things, because just because they're not having a reaction that an adult might have doesn't mean that they're not processing it. It means that adults have conditioned themselves that we have to respond in a certain way to be behaving normally about grief. So take the trigger and the tips from your 7-year-old, because sometimes they're the teachers in this moment.
That's an amazing point, Amber. Stephanie's saying this is so healing. Good. Yay. Yay. That's what we like to hear. Corinna's saying, or they stand, stare at you and wait for you to move instead of saying, excuse me, drives me crazy. Oh, she must be talking when you were talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I've seen that too.
It may also be that you're part of their spiritual dark night of the soul. They could be in it and they're so oblivious to anything around them that they're going through it, and your awareness of kindness, even though they're not acknowledging it, is part of their plan. It's part of their lesson. So just keep being you. Anna's saying she's agreeing. She needed this so much today. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, truly said. Thank you, Liz. Well said, says Vanessa. Need the intention that this is your reality. Yes. And Anna's saying, understanding the level you are participating in, you're choosing to help your reaction. 100%. I love that these guys are getting it, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is great. You guys are amazing. We love that you guys get it.
Yeah, I love it.
So it's a learning curve till we learn how to recognize these things. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's the learning curve is part of the plan as well, right? Like, if we were to have all these profound awarenesses, boom, 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 hit us simultaneously at the same time, can you imagine how, just think of what you have to think about today, and then times that by 1 billion, right? Of all the profound awarenesses you've ever had in your life. Come on, you know what? Be grateful. I'm grateful that it comes at us little bits at a time. I'll take it all day long.
And I love the fact that, once you have the awareness that you do not have to be amazing at every single thing, that you can look to somebody who is an expert in the industry or the whatever to help you with something, instead of having the burden of trying to know everything about everything, because nobody can know everything about everything. People are well read and
me and my cement.
Right. But that's the thing too, is like, you're just even knowing a little bit about something gives you that education to say, okay, this is bigger than me, I need help.
Yes.
Or I don't have the stamina to finish it, or whatever. Right. But there are so many people out there that will be available to help people in different situations, and we don't have to be great at everything, so we don't have to learn certain things, right? We just have to know they exist. Like in HR, for instance, I don't need to know and be able to cite every single law of HR or rule, or I just need to know they exist and know where to find them and know that that's my next step. And is it an HR lawyer I need, or is it the CFO do I need? Like, you have to have that understanding, but you certainly are not needing to know everything about everything. And that's where you can learn from others or delegate to others, and know your limits and have those boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. And be okay with letting go of old belief systems. That's a huge one, right? Like, I find that, during the during the dark night of the soul, where I was having ahas constantly, my old belief systems were part of the biggest challenge that I had. I was very much, I would never do that, or this person's doing this and I wouldn't do that. We're very judgmental, finger pointy, right? At the best of times as humans. I don't know why we are, but we are. It's the ego, I guess, right? It's the ego. And it's kind of some kind of solace that we're on the right track if we can see fault in somebody else's behavior. The ahas come in when we let go of, I believed that to be reality, and now I'm seeing it from a bigger perspective. If you have a situation going on in your life right now that you are very fixed on the outcome, you know it, that's it, I'm not wavering from it, whatever. I invite you today to see it from a bigger lens. So see it from that person's perspective. Step outside of your own sort of experience of it and look at it from a third party perspective. When we do stuff like that, and which is how Amber and I operate on the daily, because that's how we receive information. We're getting information from all angles. So we're forced, well, I don't even use the word force, but that's how we see things. We see it from the 360 point of view, right? And when you get, the higher you ascend with your vibration, the more you cannot ignore the peripheral vision. You know, you're not allowed to walk around like this anymore. You have to see things from all perspectives. So the more you question what your strongest beliefs are, the higher the awareness will be. And it's one of those, I think if you try that today with any situation you're going through and try and see it from a different perspective without the anger and the frustration, you'll be blown away.
Yep.
You'll be blown away. So, oh, Anna's saying, I cannot thank you enough. Needed this. I'm in tears. And I wish I could give you a big hug right now because I want to give them out so badly now. Oh, poor Anne. Yeah, no, not poor Anne. That's the wrong thing to say. I'm so happy that Anne's releasing.
Yes. Yeah, a good cry or a good laugh or whatever is just such a good way to release that built up energy. And it's always something that you don't expect. Something that's like, whoa, where did that come from? Yeah. That triggered it, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Renee is saying, thank you so much. There has been so many times that he has helped me through this process. 100%. Thanks, ladies.
You guys are very welcome.
Yeah. So Anne is saying, yes, truly appreciative. So
great.
I guess we're coming up to that time frame, Amber.
Yes.
Do you have any, what's our, fun facts? Do you have a fun fact? Like I haven't given any thought to any. So do you have one?
I think my fun fact is that I have 2 tattoos, and that's that.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
That's all I got today, guys. That's all I can think of. My fun fact, I have 2 tattoos.
That's so funny because I have one, and I got, that'll be my fun fact for the day. And I got mine when I turned 30 because I thought I was getting really old when I turned 30, which is laughable now that I'm 50. I was still a pup back then. But I thought this will be like my rebellious, I'm still young, I'm still fighting the good fight, and yeah, so there you go. I did that when I was 30 with a couple of friends of mine from Scotland. Actually. Wow.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait until our artist is open again, because I have been wanting to do this one piece for about, I'm going to say 5 years that I've been waiting to do this one. And it's a tribute to my Nana, who's still the one we were just talking about, that little feisty Scottish lady. So I can't wait to do it. And so as soon as we're able to safely be able to go and do it, I'm finally going to get it done.
That's awesome. And my daughter's been pushing me to get one with her. So that's kind of on the agenda as well when things calm down. So there you go.
My mama's not happy about my tattoos. I might be might be 40 something, but my mom does not like my tattoos.
I know.
She doesn't
I,
want
I,
any tattoos on me.
I remember when my daughter said, I want to get a tattoo. And I'm like, yeah, but when you're 30, go right
Yeah.
ahead. You know? So she did it anyway. But this is a kid who, you know, showed up at home at around 13 with a tongue ring and like a thing in her
Oh
mouth.
yeah.
And it took, like, I'm like, why is she so quiet? Like, it was like probably about 12 hours before I realized when she was talking, that's how she responded to everything. And I'm like, what's wrong with her? And then I said something that was funny and she went, ha ha. And I saw her swollen tongue. I'm like, what did you do?
Oh my
She
God, I
still
wonder
has
what
it.
her plan was to hide it from you.
Yeah, right? I know. She still has it to this day. 27. She's 27 and she still has it.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Crazy.
Well,
I know.
freedom of expression. Freedom of expression.
Totally what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, to each their own.
Yes.
We cannot judge, right? Cannot
No,
judge.
absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining Liz and I today on the Insiders with Giant TV, and we will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, guys.